Alison Rosen. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Alison, with her good times never end. Alison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Alison Rosen. Alison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Alison Rosen is your new best friend. I am sitting here in Pod Cabin with my lovely and quite busy husband, Daniel. Hello.
Hello.
I feel like you've been having a morning.
Well, things get busy sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like you're having a voluminous hair day.
I have not had my hair cut in a while, and so it gets a little bit crazy.
It looks good though.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know what they say?
I don't.
The higher the hair, the closer to God.
Do you feel godly?
I do. Feel his heavenly presence on the ends of my curls.
I went to the hematologist yesterday.
Yes.
I'm now strictly a medical midlife podcast. It's just about hormone replacement.
That's where the growth is.
That's the valuable demo that people are always trying to get to. Yeah. But anyway, and when I walked in, it's connected to like Providence St. Joe's in Burbank, which is a religious hospital, but I haven't spent a lot of time there. But I've gone to this hematologist and infusion center before, and normally it's like a hematologist oncologist. I do not have cancer. I needed iron infusions because I was anemic like a year ago, and so I still go to the hematologist so that he can make sure that my levels are still good. So I walk in and I notice there on the I'd never noticed it before. There's a giant water feature that I noticed, and I thought, doesn't that attract mosquitoes? But I guess it's just the standing water.
If the water is moving, you're fine.
Okay. So, but I noticed there's a cross with Jesus on it. One of the ornate crosses.
He's still there.
Yeah. There should be like when there's just a cross versus a cross with Jesus, it's like there's meat on the bone.
Well, if it's a cross with a realistic looking Jesus, it's a Catholic.
And if it's
usually Catholic.
Otherwise, it's what, Protestant?
Well, I find that the Protestant churches tend to make it more abstract. It's just a cross,
right?
Whereas,
no, this was like
the Catholics like to see the blood.
Yeah,
they want the wounds.
This was HD. It was in HD, so I'd never noticed that. And then I sat down waiting for them to call me into the appointment. I looked over, and there was a magazine that had a woman who was going to like teach you how to cook on the front, and then all these little religious pamphlets.
Yeah, well,
I'd never noticed them before.
There you go.
I feel like they weren't there before. I feel like there was a religious infusion.
They were there because didn't we go there for the birthing class?
Yes, we did.
And I remember them talking about how if you go to that hospital, there's some sort of like restriction. Like there are certain things that because it's a religious hospital, they wouldn't do.
Well, I think if you end up needing a medical abortion, they won't do it.
Maybe
there.
That's what they were talking about.
But anyway, so I was reading this thing and it was saying that if you take a fish out of water, the fish dies. And if you take a tree out of, I'm really getting to the end of it. You're opening your eyes wide like I'm really taking forever to tell the story. And I'm like, look at me just getting right to the end because I forget the beginning. Take a tree out of water, the tree dies. And if you take a man away from God, the man dies.
How do you take a man away from God, though? Isn't God everywhere all the time?
Well, I think it's like so it's like God looked at the water and said, let there be fish.
He did. Yeah. That, I believe, was in the original text.
They edited it out. Yeah.
Yes. Fish. The original Genesis, it was so long because it was like, let there be grass, let there be soil, let there be rocks, let there be leaves.
So he looked at the ocean.
Yes.
And he said, let there be fish.
Let there be
and
fish.
there were fish, and it was good. And he said, he looked at the soil, and he said, let there be trees. And there were trees, and it was good. Sure. And he looked at himself and said, I'm going to make man in my image. And then if you take, and then
Is this part of the thing you read, or are you now just extrapolating? Okay.
No. I read this.
Okay.
It was on flyer.
Okay. All right. Sure.
For John 15:5 or 14:4 or something like
He
that.
said, all right, let there be me.
Yeah, let there be more me's. So if you take fish out of water, the fish dies, the water's fine. If you take trees out of the soil, the tree dies, the soil's fine. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, but if you take
and if you take
from
man,
God, then God dies.
No, man dies.
God's fine.
God's fine.
God's fine.
So what they're saying is, don't neglect God.
It's all.
And of course, it was on like blue printer paper, and you could see the lines where someone had like used the paper guillotine. I don't know. It just felt very much like someone did this at Kinko's and then brought it and dropped it off or something.
I feel the way that they conceive of God is just very weird to me. But God, hey, whatever you believe, God bless you. I love you. It doesn't just. So anyway, such a weird way of thinking about it.
The reason I bring it up is because Tony, play a do. Actually, don't play it now. Wait till the appropriate time. If you remember, our beloved son Elliot. Made in our image in a lab, a very expensive lab, was religious, was expressing religious thoughts. Recently,
religious with a small r.
Yeah,
he was just saying that he likes Jesus.
Well, we did a gratitude, right? But for us, a couple of atheistic heathens who are spiritual. It's surprising. Yeah. We were doing a gratitude list, and he said that he's grateful for Jesus. He's why we're here, and he believes.
Where'd you get that?
Yeah, we didn't know. So anyway, I mentioned it on every podcast and every conversation I had for a short period of time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And Wendy Molyneux was like, why didn't you ask some questions? She's like, why not just be curious? Which is such good advice. Mm-hmm. But instead, I had such a reaction that I was like, just be cool, Alison. I didn't want to make him feel weird.
For me, that's fine. If he likes Jesus, great. What's alarming to me about it is just like,
who's talking
who's
to you?
Influencing you?
Yeah.
Like, where are you hearing about this?
Right.
Exactly. I don't know where that's coming from. So to me, that's the alarming part. But like,
yes, what he espoused is fine. He can have any thoughts he wants. And
like Jesus was great. Look, if he's gonna look up to Jesus, great.
That's cool. Look, my dad was always like, "You can think whatever you want. I would never tell you what to think. You can think that bullshit you're into, or you can, you know what I mean." Like, he definitely let us know. I truly, whatever Elliot wants to believe is fine. Yes, I'm with you. The question is just, where are you hearing this? Exactly. And it's funny because when I had Jesse Joyce on, he's Catholic. Mm-hmm. And his kids go to Catholic school. Like, it's important to him that his kids have some religious something. Like, they go to a religious school. And he was saying how funny it is that, like, what we're saying is the opposite of what someone would normally say. Like, where are they getting these ideas? Most like, if his kids started questioning things, I think it'd be like, who's talking to them?
Well,
so there's a part 2, but go ahead.
Well, okay.
There's more Jesus talk.
Well, why don't you finish the thought then?
Okay. So anyway, the other night we're getting ready for bed, and Elliot notices that Daniel has a tattoo. Have you talked about your tattoo?
Probably. I've talked about it.
It's religious scripture. No, it's an angel on his shoulder. Right. And Elliot wanted to know, why do you have an angel?
Yes.
And do you want to explain it, or should I explain it?
You want to explain why I have an angel?
Yeah. I could explain your explanation.
Oh, well, I got it when I was 18. I knew I was coming to Los Angeles, which was really, I had visited LA with my dad, and it was like the most overwhelming thing in the world. I was coming from Tucson, which isn't a small town, but it's also not a big city. And I remember we went to a Dodgers game, and I remember feeling like, when you fly into LA or drive into LA, there's like so much city. Mm. You've never seen so much fucking city. It's city for hours, and just feeling like I'm going to be plopped here alone. I don't have any friends or family in Los Angeles. I'm just going to get swallowed up in this massive humanity. I'm just going to be like, but it was also this promise of like, I was excited. I was going to film school, and it was just like this, and I don't know. I just felt like, this is cheesy. I never talk about this because it's so cheesy, but it was like, I just felt like, I always felt like I had someone looking over me, looking after me. So I got a tattoo of an angel, Los Angeles, just to remind myself that I'm being looked after.
What if the one who was looking over your shoulder was Merle?
It did smell like alcohol and stale cigarettes.
Merle is who we blame everything on.
So anyway, I kind of mentioned that to Elliot.
Yeah. So you said that you felt like you had an angel looking out for you.
Yes.
And Elliot said, I feel that way, but it's Jesus.
Yeah.
And
we were both like, say what?
Yeah.
You feel that way about what?
He feels like Jesus is looking out for him.
Yeah.
And he believes in God. And it was said in that same sort of reverent, like, I believe.
Elliot will get nightmares or whatever, and he'll get scared. And I remember when I was little, someone told me, like, if you just, believe in Jesus or angels or whatever, they'll circle the house. And like when I was very little, that was very comforting. And so for him, I mean, like, if that's an idea that helps him go back to sleep, that's great.
So then Owen said, is Jesus still alive? And you said, no, he died a long time ago. And then Elliot said, didn't he die for us?
Yeah, that was like, okay, you're hearing something.
And then you said, where are you hearing this? And then did you say YouTube or did he say YouTube?
He did.
Yes.
So it's being snuck into videos.
I don't, we hear a lot of what he's watching.
I've never heard any Jesus talk.
I haven't, but I have heard it on Owen's. Like Owen will be watching, it's a short and it'll be like very fast, like a very fast robotic voice. And it'll be like, did you know Jesus died for your sins? Like and subscribe. Or it'll be like, if you don't like and subscribe, you'll be damned to an eternal hellfire. Oh, by the way, whenever Owen is watching and it's like, subscribe for more, Owen goes, dink.
He does. I know.
Do you remember that Ben?
He's so sweet.
I know.
He's being manipulated.
That Ben Hoffman sketch. So Ben Hoffman is Wheeler Walker.
Yes.
But
I like he's like,
yeah, he had a show called the Ben Hoffman Show, a sketch show, which was very funny and like
or was it
silly.
The Ben Show?
Oh, maybe it was the Ben Show. Yeah, and there was a sketch where he's just sitting in a room on a computer and just like liking and subscribing, or maybe just liking, and that is like Owen.
That's Owen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just felt that it was important to share on the show because we are chronicling whatever is happening.
That's so insidious too, because if you're a parent and you're looking through history, there's no way to know, looking at the history, which
next time I hear this coming from Owen's iPad, I'll try to see what it is.
Yeah, try to do that because I'll block that shit. My fear is not that they'll be like
good Christian boys.
Yeah, that they'll be like just normal Christians. It's that they'll get recruited into some like evangelical born again thing that is, to me and to my mind, and apologies if I offend anybody, but this is just my perspective from personal experience and seeing people in my family go down this road, a bit culty.
Yeah.
And I just want to be able to, when he mentioned Jesus, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, fuck that shit. I was like, no, Jesus was great. Like he was a great thinker. His ideas changed the world. It's a beautiful way to organize your ethics in life, and I talked a little bit about what he stood for. I said, but there are
prosperity.
Others. Yeah, there are others too. There was, Buddha.
I'm joking.
And just like, so that when someone says he's the only way, that's the problem I have. He's not the only way.
Right.
But if you want to like study what Jesus taught, that's great. There's a lot worse ways you could go.
I keep thinking to myself, I've got to look at their iPads when they go to bed. I really should be monitoring. Like, who are they texting? I mean, we know the people they're texting, but I should be reading the conversations. I should be looking at their history. And I don't.
Yeah, well, maybe you should.
It's just not as interesting to me as my own feed. I know I need to.
I have done that. With
I have
their
before.
YouTube, and I've noticed that there are these videos. Elliot, I don't think maybe Owen started to. I don't think he has. There are these videos where, and there's a term for it. It's like YouTube shit or something like that. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. And it's basically this, they'll take cartoons like Peppa Pig or Royce Bedoyce or one of these. Ugh. And then or even like, animated movies,
right.
And they'll chop it up and it's just stupid.
And they make the characters say bad words and bad things.
It gets pretty vulgar. But if you just looked at the thumbnails, you're just like, oh,
isn't it like funny video. Royce Bedoyce or something?
Yeah, it's like, oh,
yeah,
and they're learning
bad
profanity.
words.
But then fucking YouTube, like I try to block those channels, and YouTube, they claim to have parental controls. I'm sorry, their parental controls are shit.
Yeah,
like they don't block. They still get them, so I don't know.
RFK suspended his presidential bid.
And
Drats through his support
and
behind
endorsed
Trump.
Fucking Trump.
Of course he did.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah. So remember how now
by the way, the rumor is that Cheryl Hines was asking him not to do that.
Oh, really?
So it'll be interesting to see
because she wanted him to continue running, or she
no, she didn't want him to support Trump.
Interesting.
Let's see what happens there.
Interesting.
Anyway.
So I said that Elliot taught me the word gyat, which he said means butt.
Sure.
And last night he said gyat means big butt.
Okay.
And then Mary Catherine Ham so I have a bit of a correction. Texted this morning and she said gyat is slang for thick booty and comes from gyat damn, look at that ass.
Okay, that's awesome.
That's really funny. So I owe it all to Elliot and MK Ham for letting me know what these words mean. I would like to remind everyone that I'm on Patreon. Or Patroon, as I like to call it, because it's fun to say. Patreon.com/Alison Rosen. Ads are thin. They're non-existent for this episode. So your support means the world to me. And I just did a friend zone with Lizzie Cooperman, and that will go up any momento. There's video, there's audio, and she shared a lot of stuff that cannot be in the main feed. So come and get it, guys. Do an annual subscription and get 2 months free. Also, I've done friend zones with all the people you'd want to hear. Allie Ward, Greg Heller, Stephanie Wilder-Taylor.
That's about it.
So many with Jenna. So many multiples with Al, multiples with Daniel, multiples with Tony, multiples with RJ Skinner.
RJ Skinner.
Oh, RJ City. RJ City.
Yes.
I was trying to book him and Dalton on the show, and I just got an email from them, and so I saw his full name and I forgot who I was talking about. Do I have a Dalton Patreon? I should get that. I should get one of those going.
Mm-hmm.
And so many others. All of them. Think of a person. I've had Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Gretchen Whitmer.
What? Politics?
I had one with Gretchen Whitmer.
No one's talking politics these days. What's up with that?
I feel like a lot of people are. So we had back to school night last night.
We sure did.
Did we ever?
We ever did.
We did. Now, we realized because we have 2 children in separate classes, we didn't know our plan of attack for how to do this.
Now, next year it'll be easier.
Yeah, because Elliot's will be at a different time. But so what we did is Daniel started in Owen's classroom and I started in Elliot's classroom. Yeah. And then we were going to switch. The whole thing was 40 to 45 minutes. We were going to switch at 20 minutes, but then we were texting and I should have sat near the door. Instead, I sat I sat in Elliot's seat, which is like as far as possible from the door. Right. And so then I'm like,
you got to get up and walk across
all these parents
very conspicuously.
Yeah. And it feels rude. And so I was like, so I tried to delay it because she also, no offense, but after a lot of it was like listening to me do a podcast, a lot of stuff where I didn't need it, Was
she talking about her philosophy as a teacher? What was she talking about?
Growth mindset.
Was it?
Yes. Well, that the kids need to have a growth mindset.
What does that mean?
They need to, instead of thinking like, I don't know how to do that, they need to think of like, I don't know how to do that yet.
Oh.
She sent home a
I should
piece of paper about that. Yeah. But anyway, it was just like, it was fine, but it wasn't crucial information. But then she was getting into her recommendations for homework. Mm-hmm. Like she said that she wouldn't do homework if she wasn't required to. Oh, and for a second I thought she meant she wouldn't like do it herself, but she meant she wouldn't assign it. Mm. She would rather not, at this age. But, she was saying like when they ask, don't help them.
Why? I don't know why that's required.
I don't know. Yeah, it must be like I don't know. But so anyway, and so I was like, oh, I want to hear this because I want to know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. So hang on, I got to take a sip of water. So anyway, I delayed it to 6:30. So we made the switch at 6:30. Mm. I sat down in Owen's classroom. And she's like, well, that's about it for us. Now, you and I both did voice memo recordings.
So you could hear what you missed.
Will we ever listen to the other one?
I might.
I also might.
I might.
It's funny because you remember we did that baby class?
Which one?
Mommy and Daddy and Me. Well, I did Mommy and Me, and then we did Mommy and Daddy and Me.
Yes.
And it was standard that when you'd miss a class, you'd ask someone to record it for you. Literally never, ever have I ever listened to any of the recordings. Yeah, it was more in Mommy and Me. But anyway, and useful information too, but I don't know. So we did that. I thought it was interesting. I feel like it's fine to say this because we're not saying any teacher's name. Could you share what the teacher said about occasionally you might get Disney flu?
She said that you might get some of your kids might get the Disney flu. And they might get the Dodger blue flu. She's like, and she's like, I understand. She wasn't condoning it because she can't like legally condone it, but she was like, much more understanding that families, that vacation time is important and
right.
That's part of life. And so, which was like the first time I've heard that because other teachers have been like, you need to be here.
So that must have been near the end. Do you need to deal with the work thing that's happening?
Yeah, I gotta take a call here in a second.
Okay. When I sat down, she was saying one more thing about like, don't not take these trips. Don't not go to Paris. Don't not something, but just be cool.
Be cool. Yeah. Yes. Because she mentioned like, were you there when she said that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That part. But I couldn't tell because she almost sounded like she was saying it's important not to take the trips during the school year. She was saying something like this. I caught the end of this. Like the school gets a lot of money for your kids being here. Yeah. I think that's basically why it's so important. It must be, right? If you need to go, you can.
I gotta go.
Okay. Are you coming back?
Probably not.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Well, this is interesting. Now you guys have just me. What should we talk about? I mean, really, I could finish out the episode when Daniel has a moment, except we have now entered into this child careless existence where we're taking care of our own children and finding another stretch where he is available. I don't exactly know when that's going to be. So let's just see how this goes. I do have some voicemails to play. And then also I can tell you that earlier today, I was a guest on Sleeping with Celebrities. And this is hosted by John Moe, who formerly hosted, was it called Depresh Mode or Depresh Pod? And the gimmick is that it is a show to listen to as you're falling asleep. So there's not going to be anything that's too exciting. And he invites people on to talk about something that's not something they can talk about at length, that's not particularly interesting, which really feels like it should be in my wheelhouse. So of course, when I was, trying to come up with what I should be talking about, I could talk about IVF at length. I could talk about various gynecological surgeries, although that is it doesn't put people to sleep. It drives them away. Well, at least my husband. Of course, I could talk about facts of life at length, but instead I suggested perhaps that I talk about the various ducks and chickens and things that I had as a pet as a kid. And he was very interested in my childhood birds. So we talked about that. But when we first start, and I'm not proud to tell this story. In fact, I'm a little bit ashamed. Before we started, he said to me, "Have you had a chance to listen to the show, or do you know what it's about?" And I, ashamed, said I have not. Because I normally, if I'm going to be a guest on a show, I listen to the podcast, so I know what I'm doing. I just feel like that's standard. Like if someone comes on my show and they have listened, I love it so much more than if someone has never listened. And it takes all kinds. It runs the gamut, but I really appreciate if someone takes the time to listen and know what's up. So I felt like I was like, I am an asshole. I didn't even do the thing that I love when people do. I don't expect them to, but I love it. And it's just because, and I just put up a Substack, where at the beginning I just talked about, I've just been so sick lately. I'm finally feeling better. But COVID just kicked me in the ass. And then I mentioned on the episode with Jenna and Al that I thought I was all better. And so much so that I had a dentist appointment and I was like, I can justify going to this and opening my mouth and breathing my germs all over them, because really you should be breathing through your nose when you go to the dentist. But I'm past 10 days. I'm not contagious anymore. And then I woke up and I felt awful. And I wondered, Jackie Johnson had a rebound and was sicker than she's ever been because she took Paxlovid. And I thought to myself, if I had taken Paxlovid, I would be convinced that this was a COVID rebound. So I don't know if this is just some tricky viral thing or if I've caught something else. But I was texting with Jackie and she told me that she did Teladoc. And they said that a secondary sinus infection is really common after COVID. So I was thinking of maybe going to urgent care, but I didn't really feel like it, even though I was, quite excited that I got an email saying a new urgent care has opened in my neighborhood. And it is pathetic that I was desperately trying to go to the dentist. And it's also pathetic that I'm scoping out this new urgent care for if I need one. But I thought I'm just going to do Teladoc. So I did. And he said that a bacterial infection is common after COVID. I'm not convinced it's bacterial, but he wrote me antibiotics anyway. So I have been taking them and my sore throat is not entirely going away, but I feel 1,000 times better. And I knew I felt better yesterday because I took a shower. Do you know how long it had been? It had been some time. I'd like to think that I smelled pretty clean though beforehand because I'm also not doing a lot of moving. So anyway, why? Oh yeah, I know. I was like, why did I bring it up? Because I'm going to blame my lack of listening to John Moe's show on just being sick. Now, everyone, let's take a quick break for me to blow my nose.
Hey, it's Todd Perry from Alison's other podcast, Alison and Todd After Hours, and people are always telling me, Todd, I dig the show because it really helps with my love life. If you go to a sex store, they have multiple vibrators of different varying speeds, sizes.
Right, shapes, materials.
Veininess.
Right, different vascularity for your vibrator.
Alison and Todd After Hours, new episodes twice a month at patreon.com/Alison and Todd.
And I'm back. I don't know whether you heard that or not. I need to put my glasses back on because I can't see shit. Thinking about trying out contacts. Isn't that exciting? Because I can't stand this way I'm living. Okay. So then I was a guest on the episode and we talked about birds. And we started by talking about Robert the quail, which is the quail that we hatched from a tiny egg. And I realized I don't remember much of Robert's life. I remember the beginning of it, but I don't really remember how long he lived with us, whether he had a good life or not. I don't know. Okay, so let's listen to a call.
Hi, Alison. It's Karen from Scotland. Hello to Daniel as well, and to the 2 children, and any pets and any bugs that you might have right now. Internet rabbit holes. Okay, so I don't drive. I do not care about cars, but I am become obsessed with police car chases. And when I lived in America, I lived in the Midwest, so they really didn't have it. It's mostly in LA. And they are fascinating. I mean, I can tell you all about spike strips and pit maneuvers and the marine layer that sort of obscures the poor helicopters. And it is mad. There was one guy, the police were holding back just a little bit. He stopped for gas. I mean, that is insane. Anyway, I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I'm subscribed on YouTube to all of the ABC 7s and LA whatevers, and all the police car chase channels. I don't know why I'm obsessed with it. It's actually quite relaxing as well, with a sort of like helicopter noise. And anyway, something that I'm strangely obsessed with. This is Karen from Scotland.
Karen? That's fascinating. I refuse to believe that it's relaxing, although I could see where the chopper noise is and stuff. But the actual, if you're invested in the chase, that sounds invigorating. My departed dad, was pretty into police chases. I mean, I think everyone in the country had on the OJ chase, just watching the white Bronco it felt like hours. Excuse me. It felt like hours. I wonder how long that actually was. If anyone knows, let me know. How long did that whole thing last? Because it felt like it was, live break-in TV forever, but he loved that kind of stuff. I have never really found it fascinating, but maybe I could. I mean, I'm open to like a new obsession or a new interest. Not that my skincare interest and obsession, not that there's like, an end to that insight. Just yesterday, I was listening to a podcast from this guy who was talking about our exosomes, the future of skincare. So, sorry, I'm taking a detour and then I'm coming back. A detour. That's probably exciting to you, Karen. It's a car chase navigational term word. But anyway, so exosomes and stem cells, things like this are like all the rage. They don't call it stem cells though. They call it growth factors. Exosomes, growth factors, PDRN. These are the future of skincare, and they'll, inject these things in your skin or put them on your skin after microneedling or during microneedling. And they are supposed to, what is it that they do? They like prompt. I don't know exactly if they prompt your cells to grow new young cells or if they de-age cells. But somehow they're the future of regenerative medicine. And what he was saying is something that I've wondered and speculated about, which is a way of me patting myself on the back, that all I don't even know what, I'm going to look up exosome, but let's call them, growth factors or whatever. They're not all created equal. Because take stem cells, which the reason people are so excited about stem cells is because a stem cell theoretically can turn into anything, from a stem cell in cord blood or whatever. It can, like, it could grow a pancreas, or it could grow a lung, or heart cells or brain cells or whatever. But I'm real hazy on this, but it has to receive a message telling it what to become. And the thing that gives, for someone who knows about this, I am all over the place and I'm spouting misinfo, but this is the gist. The thing that gives it that message is, I think, what they're putting into the skincare. But you can't just it can't just be like, here's, okay. Here's an analogy. Let's say you take a pizza delivery man, a bike courier, for like a FedEx, you take a pizza delivery man, a FedEx courier, just delivery men and women and people of all sorts. And you want to get your package delivered. So you take a bunch of delivery people and you just throw them in a certain direction. That's not going to get your package to go anywhere, because you haven't given them directions, and they're not all going to do the same thing. It's really slapshot to just take, like, they all need to be given specific directions and they all do specific things. So what it made me realize is the idea of, like, just put a bunch of exosomes on your skin. These need to be it needs to be specific, and you need to know that these cells know what they're doing. And also, in order to create that situation, it probably costs a lot of money, and it needs to happen under very specific circumstances. So anyway, all it told me was, I think we're all overpaying for something that's probably ultimately not going to work at this point. That's what I took from the podcast. But back to car chases. Yeah, maybe I'll get into it. And then I have another message from Karen from a different day.
Hello, Alison and gang. This is Karen from Scotland. I don't really know about the algorithm thing. Let's see. Stuff that's going on here. Well, I sliced my finger open at work and went to admin, and while I was sitting there, they had no bandages or plasters for me. That's Band-Aids. So they had me bleed into a plastic bag, which is...
This is upsetting.
Just bizarre. And then when I went up to A&E, it's a pretty depressing little tiny town hospital. And it had sort of like a McDonald's drive-through window that you go up to in the actual hospital. I did ask them about their shake machine if it was working, but she didn't really understand me, which was very disappointing. But I got to walk out of there without having to pay anything, which was nice. Other than that, I'm sorry to hear about the COVID. I've never had it, which is really strange considering all of the public that I had to deal with during COVID and all the bus rides that I had to take. Plus, I've never gotten the shots, not because I'm anti-vax, because I have white coat syndrome, which, if you know, you know. Yeah, so I am deathly afraid of hospitals, but I've never had it. So I'm thinking I'm immune, hopefully. Or I'm just a terrible super carrier and I've just been running around infecting everybody for the last 4 years. I do not know. Anyway, hope everything else is going fine. See ya.
Okay, so then she called, wanted to follow up to let me know that when she said white coat syndrome, which most people think white coat syndrome is where your blood pressure gets high when the doctor walks in the room, and it's not an accurate reading. But she was in a car accident many years ago, and the friend that she was in the accident with died. And ever since then, she's been horribly afraid of all medical situations. She's wanted to make it clear that she's not anti-vax and that she hates Trump. So, there's a lot of alls. First of all, I'm so sorry to hear about that accident. That sounds horribly traumatic. And that makes sense that you'd be afraid. And, I hope because you mentioned that someday you might have to have like a long hospital stay and that'll be awful for you. I hope that you can get through that. And I wonder if you've had therapy around it. But all of that, that's awful. And then also I'm thinking, given that that's how you feel, going through the medical drive-through was probably really stressful. So I'm sorry about that. And I'm wondering, A&E, you said you went up to A&E. I'm thinking that must be something and emergency. What's the A? And how did you slice your finger open? And if you are immune to COVID, I think they call those people novids. You've never had COVID. That's impressive. Yeah, a lot to think about, a lot to talk about. Let me know. If you want to call in and share anything, 323-553-2331. Again, that's 323-553-2331. We won't answer. That is our promise to you. Although we keep talking about maybe taking live calls, not just doing voicemails. I actually have an update on this week on TikTok, aka Twat, an update to what I shared last week. So last week I talked about this woman who made a series of videos where she said that her husband was being, acting increasingly strange. And she, what she was describing was that he was having a manic episode and having a break from reality. And she was worried for herself and her children because there's guns in the house, and he was expressing self-harm, and everyone who was watching, it went viral, and there were tons of, because she was asking for advice. What should I be doing? People were giving her tons of advice, and they were urging her to get out of the situation, keep yourself safe, keep your kids safe. She has young kids. People kept, and I was doing this too, kept checking back to make sure she's okay. There were a couple things that didn't add up about it. Like, she was wearing really playful earrings different earrings in each video. And it's like, granted, some people do put on earrings in the middle of a crisis, but it just, I don't know. For some reason, a lot of people noticed that she had on, her earring game was on point in the midst of this crisis. So then she comes on sometime later and she's like, as some of you guessed, this was a recreation. And she's a theater kid, she said, and she wanted to figure out the best way to share this story and figure out how to, reach the most people and raise awareness. For what? I don't know what she's raising awareness for. The whole thing seems grandiose if really you thought you had a greater purpose, and that's why you did this and manipulated all these people and made them feel worried for you and offer their own stories and give you all this advice if this whole thing was not really happening in the time. And people on TikTok all the time do like, okay, story time. That's a very standard beginning. Okay, story time. It's still compelling. If I were, as someone with a conscience, when I noticed that people in the comments were getting really worked up, I would have been like, okay, I need to say this is not happening now. Instead of her responding in the comments like, oh, that's a good tip. Thank you. So anyway, people had a really negative reaction. She deleted her account. Her husband deleted his account, but there's people who saved her recordings and have, preserved them. Her screen name was Flightless Bird, but like with just one S. But anyway, someone did a deep dive, and it turns out that she and her husband, also I should add, it's questionable whether any of this is true. She's claiming it happened earlier in the year. I'm not sure any of it is true, but they're part of a cult. It's called the Rose Creek Farm. Let me look it up. Rose Creek Farm. There's another thing I was going to look up too. Rose Creek Cult. I'll just look that. Rose Creek Village Cult. It's not called Rose Creek Village Cult, but it's the Rose Creek Village. They're in Selmer, Tennessee, and I don't really know anything about them. It's like okay. Christian community in Selmer lives for God every day. This is a story in the Jackson Sun from 2017. And then there's a video of just a bunch of people playing guitar. Let's see. So 100 people live together and follow God every day. Church becomes the punctuation marks of your life instead of the actual sentence, community member David Nix says. So they're different than institutionalized churches. I haven't seen Midsommar, but that's what this picture looks like a little bit. It's just like a bunch of crunchy looking white people gathered around a guitar of all ages. Okay. You have to be really willing to be really flexible and to take a fresh look at seeking God. Okay, so before they moved to Selmer, they were in Geneva, Florida, as the church in Geneva. I'm trying to see, because right now it just sounds like a commune. So I'm trying to see, and probably in an article that's not critical of it, they're not going to say. I'm trying to see what is culty about it. Again, it's a lot of outdoors, a lot of rocks and things. Nope, not really. Okay, I'm not finding it. Back to basics. Not finding it here. Let's see. Rose Creek Village cult. I mean, usually the things that make things culty are there's one charismatic leader. There's weird sex shit going on. And if you're separated from your family and you're like shunned if you don't do what they say. Oh, here we go. Okay. Inside the world of flightless bird cult, Rose Creek Village.
Hey everybody, this is not a part 2. I would just like to clarify my intentions on sharing the information that I'm sharing. This is not a series dedicated to figuring out everything there is to know about the flightless bird lady. I will not even be saying her legal name. This is specifically to do with learning more about the cult associated with her story. I will like to correct some things that were very clear right now, and there's evidence pointing either way. She had a at-home birth, which is a very big part of the Rose Creek Village cult. That's one of the things they specialize in. They offer midwife services. And also, regardless whether her husband literally works for a cult-associated business, as we went over in the first video, they're associated with it. Just please don't try to get into contact with vulnerable people in proximity. So we shouldn't go too far into the...
I find this unsatisfying. I need the cliff notes on this cult, please. That's what I need. Listen, everyone. This episode took a turn. It took a turn that I didn't expect. That turn being Daniel left. He abandoned us. He valued his job more than my job. And he also needs to go pick up Owen from school, and I hope he realizes what time it is. Hold, please. Oh, shit. He said, would it be possible for you to pick up Owen? Okay, so thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye. Okay, that was a false ending. I went in the house, and he was gone. So he went to pick up Owen because I didn't get that text in time. So... And while I was in there, I was thinking, I wonder if you guys are like, God, they are not doing well without childcare, but they're figuring it out. I think that's my own thought that I was projecting onto you. But anyway, don't worry, guys, we will get this sorted out. It's a little bit bumpy right now, but we're going to get it sorted out. It's not going to negatively affect the show more than it has right now. We will figure it out. But anyway, so now I can offer a calm goodbye and I don't have to leave you panicked. Again, maybe I was the one who was panicked. Thank you for listening. And I already mentioned Patreon, but my Substack. Check out my Substack. I was overdue for writing one. I just wrote a lengthy one answering. I solicited questions. One of the questions was, do you have any regrets about your time on the AC? Well, that wasn't the way it was phrased, but it was asking about regrets. Like, is there anything you wish you could have said or done differently from your time on ACS? And I answered at length. And I basically started by saying like, no, however. And I kind of went into more detail about some of the like interpersonal back end stuff that I don't think I've gone into much detail about before. And then I felt uncomfortable and I wondered, should I not be like talking about this? And it's funny when I writing about the beginning of my time on the show is fun for me. And it's easy and it feels like looking at old photos in a positive way. But then writing about the unconscious uncoupling that happened near the end is a little bit thornier for me, but that's okay. And then also, like, is there stuff you wish you could have talked to your dad about after October 7th? And it was a great question. Thank you, Tammy. So all of that, AlisonRosen.substack.com. Okay, everyone, thank you for listening. For real, I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen Show?